Hello everyone, tonight we are riding a bus route that only runs when the streetlights flicker and the timetable forgets it ever existed. You are here standing in the soft drizzle at the stop near the edge of a forest that was once a cemetery waiting for a bus that shouldn't still be running. It hisses up from nowhere, doors sighing open, like lungs that never quite exhale. You step inside. You probably won't survive. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. Let me know where you're listening from and what time it is there. Now turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's get started tonight. The driver does not speak. He never does. You nod anyway, trying not to notice the way the windshield reflects no one sitting in his seat. You don't want to start off your night by being rude. You make your way down the aisle past pairs of empty seats, past people who look like they're sleeping, but aren't breathing, past condensation that spells things on the windows and then wipes itself clean. And then there it is, the last seat, rear left, where the cushion is just a little indented, like someone's been sitting there a long time. You hesitate. It looks occupied, though you see no one. Still, there's something about that seat that feels claimed, like a forgotten umbrella hooked over a subway handle. Technically unattended but socially unavailable. You sit across from it instead, just for now. Out the window, the trees along the road seem older than they should be. One leans in too close, and you wonder if branches are ever arrested for peeking. You try to ignore your reflection because it keeps blinking at the wrong time. And just as you're settling into the humming rhythm of this mechanical lullaby, you feel the cold. Not breeze cold, not winter cold. The kind of cold that knows your name and dislikes it. A bus, of course, is a modern thing, but people have always moved together through darkness. Ancient Roman armies once traveled in wagons by torchlight, and archaeological digs have revealed that many such carts were inscribed with curses, charms for safe passage, or more often, to keep a certain someone from boarding. May the shade of Gaius never find this wheel again scratched one cart's axle. Charming, isn't it? There's a folkloric belief from the Balkans that ghosts prefer to ride in threes. One sits, one stands, and one waits at the next stop. According to a 19th century ethnographer, if you board a coach and see a dog sleeping in the last row, you should disembark immediately unless you want your seat warmed by more than fur. Scholars naturally dispute this. Some researchers still argue whether the three-ghost rule was ever a real folk belief or just a misreading of a children's cautionary tale involving a spectral donkey. No one can seem to agree if it was a ghost on the donkey or the donkey itself. Folklore studies are like that, always dangling halfway between the weird and the weary. The bus makes no announcements. The stops come and go like dreams you almost remember, blurred houses, lampposts that sway as if trying to shake something off old train crossings without tracks. No one boards. No one gets off. Well, almost no one. At the 7th stop, the bus shudders though no door opens. You hear a single click behind you. Just one. Not the sound of footsteps, but something placing its weight precisely. It is the sound of the seat across from you, the seat accepting an arrival. Not a new passenger. Just the one who never left. You keep your gaze steady, pretending to look at the blurred ad above the window, which promises half-off wisdom teeth, removal, and 20% more silence. The air smells faintly of old plastic engine oil, and something metallic like a coin clenched too long in a closed hand. Or maybe blood, if blood could forget what it was. You try to count your breaths. You skip every fourth. A small irony that back row is where the cool kids used to sit. Now, it's where the coldest kid waits politely without saying a word. He or she has good bus etiquette, you'll admit. No talking, no headphones leaking music, just a presence. And a strange rule, they only make themselves known to someone riding alone. A kind of haunting reserved for introverts. Sometimes you wonder if every bus has one. A guest who knows every stop but never has a destination. Who gets off only when no one is watching and climbs back aboard as soon as someone forgets to check the mirror. Maybe that's why drivers always stare forward. Maybe it's not courage. Maybe it's strategy. The lights inside flicker. You blink. Across from you, the seat is flatter. You tell yourself there's the movement. The suspension bouncing, the road slanting, that's all. But then the window fogs, just once. A small patch. A breath maybe. And someone writes a word there backward and slow. It isn't your name, but it's someone's. You almost laugh. What a dramatic touch. Like a B movie trying to be an A mystery. You half expect creepy violin music to start playing from the bus speakers, but instead there's just static. Not white noise, breathing noise. The kind you hear when someone listens too closely with their mouth open. You do not move. Because movement is permission, and permission is invitation. Instead, you stare ahead and think about ancient wagons and haunted donkeys, and what your reflection would look like if you stood up. You decide not to check. Outside, the city has ended. You're riding through a forest now, though no such forest should be here. But then again, neither should the bus. The forest is not the kind that grows. It's the kind that remembers. Tall, pale trees lean inward, crowding the narrow road as if listening. Their trunks are smooth, strangely unbarked and spaced too evenly, like they were placed rather than sprouted. There's no underbrush, no animal sound, no moonlight. Just the dull silver flicker of the bus's overhead bulbs and the way your breath feels a little too loud. The driver hasn't turned once. You start to wonder if he blinks. And behind you, the last seat on the left groans softly just once. Not a complaint, more like a sigh from someone who has finally sat down after standing for 1,000 years. The air grows colder in brief pulses, like someone exhaling behind your neck in long intervals. Some ancient roads were built to avoid spirits. Roman engineers bent roads away from known burial sites, and even today in Japan, you'll find roads with sudden zigzags meant to confuse ghosts. Straight paths, it turns out, are too easy to follow. And too hard to leave. The bus does not zigzag. It moves slow and true deeper into the woods. You try to tell yourself this is part of the route, that you boarded the night bus and forgot how odd the schedule gets, that your phone will get a signal soon, even though it's already started to warm strangely in your pocket like it's resisting being touched. You remember reading once about a prehistoric tree that still grows today, ginkgo biloba, often called a living fossil. Some scientists believe its leaves evolved to shed water quickly, avoiding the growth of bacteria in ancient oxygen-poor swamps. You've seen ginkgo leaves before, scattered in golden spirals, but you don't see any here. These trees don't have leaves. These trees don't even have names. From the corner of your eye, something changes. Not a shape, not a shadow, just a slight distortion across the back window. As if the glass were a sheet of ice starting to fracture internally, invisibly, with no sound. It begins to dawn on you that the seat isn't occupied. It's hosting. There's a story about a girl in Minsk who used to take the last bus home from her university, always the same seat. One night, she didn't notice that her reflection stayed behind when she stepped off. Her roommate said she was different after that, more tired, more thoughtful, more transparent. It was probably just urban legend, the kind that builds around quiet tragedies. The girl graduated and moved away, but the seat stayed put. Some researchers still argue whether this story originated with the Minsk bus system or was adapted from an older tale about a haunted train in Prague. A few folklorists even claim it's rooted in Norse beliefs about shadow. Doubles vardoger, they're called spirits that precede a person or sometimes linger behind, echoing them imperfectly. So if you see yourself still sitting, don't wave. The lights dim again and you feel something shift in the balance of the bus. You're not alone. Of course you weren't before, but this is different. You're being watched now. Not from across the aisle, but from below. Like something is listening beneath the bus, pacing gently with the wheels. The idea of a stowaway is almost comforting. But this thing doesn't want to hide. It just wants to wait. Until you make the first mistake. You glance back just once. The seat is empty. It's a trick. the oldest one in the book. But you fall for it because you're human, and humans are curious even when we know we shouldn't be. That's why we kept putting our hands in places with teeth. You look and see nothing, and then everything, because the seat isn't empty. It's just not full in the visible way. The cushion is bowed, like something heavy and ancient is pressed there, something that doesn't reflect light the way it should. Your eyes slide off it like water on old glass. And just for a second you see the silhouette of a hand, not touching the window, just hovering near it, as if asking, or waiting for permission. You turn back, fast. You don't scream. That would be rude. The other passengers, still unmoving, still not quite right, might take offense. You try to focus on something neutral. Anything. The signage above the front says, "Next stop always." That can't be right. You blink. It's gone. You chuckle softly, nervously, out loud. A moment later, you hear a chuckle behind you. Identical, but not yours. Echo coincidence. Humor is a defense mechanism after all, and ghosts apparently appreciate a good timing. You focus on the floor. The thin rubber ridges, the speckled dust, the gum that fossilized sometime in 1993. That's when the scent changes. Not musty plastic anymore. Now it's something older. Like burnt feathers and cold clay. Like a museum where all the labels have been removed and the bones don't want to be named. Maybe it's just a trick of the air system. A weird filter, but it smells like extinction. And extinction, as we know, has a scent. Some fossils still carry faint chemical traces of the world they once lived in: sulfur, iron, hydrocarbons. Scientists studying amber once cracked open a 100-million-year-old droplet and claimed they could smell ancient pine resin almost fresh. Others warned this was imagination, that the scent was memory, not molecule. You breathe shallowly, trying not to remember. Outside, the trees have disappeared. There's just mist now. A silver gray that doesn't swirl, doesn't drift, it hangs, like it's holding its breath. And so do you. Because in the reflection of the window, the seat across the aisle is no longer behind you. It's beside you, and it's waiting for you to say something first. The guest is patient. That's the problem. You can almost respect it, this unyielding politeness, the silence that hovers like a second skin. It doesn't knock. It doesn't lean in. It simply waits. And the longer it waits, the more it becomes yours. You do what anyone might do. You pretend. You act like the bus ride is normal, that your legs aren't locked in place, that your breath isn't frosting just slightly, despite the absence of visible cold. You even cross your arms, trying to seem annoyed, like this is just a delay, just a detour, just a regular evening spent crawling through rural darkness with no cell signal and no map. The guest is unimpressed. There's a rule in old ghost stories, less a law, more of a courtesy. If the spirit is polite, you must match its tone. No screaming, no threats, definitely no calling it a vibe. Otherwise it becomes less polite. A haunting, it seems, is a kind of social contract. One you didn't know you signed. The bus hums on. The same tone, the same speed. No bumps, no curves, just forward. You glance at the other passengers again. Still unmoving, still vague. The man in the coat hasn't blinked since you boarded. The woman in the red scarf still holds an open book, though the pages never turn. One of them, a child maybe, has socks that don't quite touch the floor. But you don't want to look at their shoes too long. They're the wrong kind. The soles curve upward, like they've never been worn on Earth. You wonder if you look like that to someone else right now. There's a brief flicker of warmth, your phone trying to reconnect. It buzzes once, then goes silent, screen dimming before it can finish whatever it tried to say. A message lost between towers, maybe a warning, maybe a joke. Speaking of, did you know the first known wheeled transport wasn't for travel but for ritual? The earliest depictions of carts come from Mesopotamian temple scenes, where the wheels carried not people but gods, effigies of deities wheeled solemnly through the city streets. Transportation in its oldest form wasn't about distance, it was about reverence. Or fear. You glance down the aisle. No gods here, just the driver whose spine remains unnaturally straight. Too straight. You can't see his eyes in the mirror, not because they're hidden, because there's no reflection at all. The mirror reflects the bus, the seats, even you, but not him. Funny, right? How easy it is to miss an absence. Some folklorists say certain spirits avoid mirrors because mirrors don't lie. Others claim mirrors do lie, and that's why the dead like them. There's even an old superstition that if you fall asleep in front of a mirror, your soul might wander out and forget how to get back in. That's why early American households would cover mirrors during wakes, out of courtesy or confusion. Scholars still argue about the origins of that tradition. Some trace it to Victorian death etiquette, others to much older Babylonian beliefs that glass could capture dreams. One theory suggests it's not about the mirror at all. It's about the reflection, that the image in the mirror might develop opinions and eventually habits. Across the aisle, the guest is still sitting. The seat looks slightly more compressed now. The plastic frame groans with each curve of weight, though you never see it shift. And yet there's a fold in the vinyl now that wasn't there before. A small wrinkle. A crease that suggests something with joints. You try a tactic. You close your eyes. That's your second mistake. Because the moment you close them, you feel the presence lean not toward, not against, but into your direction. Not like a head tilting, like an awareness entering a shared sentence. It's as if a question has been asked in a language you almost understand, and your silence has become an answer. You open your eyes again. Outside the window, the mist is gone. Now there's only darkness. Not blackness, but depth. Like someone has peeled away the concept of landscape. You aren't moving through space anymore. You're being carried. You check the signage above the windshield again. It now reads Destination Guest. That seems specific. You consider calling out to the driver. Just to ask. Just to test. But the air tastes thick now. Not smoky, not humid, intentional. Like breath held in someone else's lungs. Like air that waits. So instead you try another trick. You speak without looking. Nice night, you say to the seat beside you in a voice both braver and quieter than you feel. Bit long, though. There's a pause, then a sound. Not words. Not quite breath. A soft pulling noise like fabric adjusting or someone sitting on memory. Then stillness again. You almost laugh. Joke number one. Well, at least they're not a talker. You grip the pole beside your seat. It's warm. Warmer than it should be. You glance down and see the faint outline of a handprint. Not fresh, persistent, as if someone else had once clung there for dear life and left behind a warning. You pull your hand back. That's when the bus stops. No announcement, no jolt, just ceasing. The doors open. Beyond them, not a station, not a curb. Just ground. Gray soil. A single wooden bench beside a path leading nowhere. And beyond that, a sign with peeling paint. You lean to read it. This isn't your stop. Then beneath in smaller letters, but thank you for your seat. You don't move. The guest doesn't either. No one gets off. No one gets on. The doors close. The bus sighs and continues. You feel it now. A presence in your shadow. Not heavy, not hostile, just insistent. Like someone quietly standing behind you while you think. Someone who means no harm but won't leave until you understand something you've forgotten, something they never did. Maybe that's what a haunting is, a debt of understanding that someone else couldn't repay. And now you're the collateral. You begin to notice it the way the lights no longer flicker. They pulse. Softly like a heartbeat, but not yours. You sit very still. The bus has changed in texture, not in shape, not in size, but in feeling. The seats now look just a bit too distant from the floor, like they hover rather than rest. The windows reflect only what's inside. When you try to see out, it's like watching a memory of the outside world slowly unraveling. One thread at a time. You check your watch. It's blank. Of course it is. Time here is the first to be excused. It always steps out politely before things get strange. No sense overstaying. There's a sound behind you. A subtle shuffle, Not movement, not mass, just adjustment. Like someone settling into their decision. The guest is still with you, still quiet, still kind. That's what makes it worse. Politeness, after all, can be predatory. You try the window again. A face meets yours. Not your reflection. It's made of fog. Pressed flat features barely form two closed eyelids. A nose not quite real and a mouth that doesn't seem to know if it should smile. The condensation pulls away when you blink, as if embarrassed. In a way, you admire the restraint. There's an ancient practice carved into stones found in the Orkney Islands of drawing circles around the deceased. Not to trap the dead, but to remind the living not to follow. The marks were often simple, a loop, a spiral, or a line that never quite closed. To this day, some burial grounds use stones with closed curves as a quiet boundary. Not for keeping something in, for reminding something not to leave. The bus, you now realize, has been drawing circles all night. You pass the same flickering lamppost 3 times now. You recognize it not from shape or place, but from the way the light hesitates before glowing. A brief stutter like a skipped heartbeat. You could swear it sees you. And each time you pass, the guest seems calmer, more certain. Some researchers believe that the human brain registers repetition as safety even when the pattern suggests something is wrong. It's why lullabies often loop, why rituals use chants, why haunted places rarely scream. They hum, they repeat. The guest does not hum, but it breathes now. Or at least the air beside you deepens and rises in tempo like something imitating lungs with incredible care. You could almost believe it's practicing, preparing. You whisper, "Is this your seat?" A pause. Then 3 knocks from beneath the bus. Soft, measured, like knuckles against wood that isn't there. Joke number 2. Well, that's not no. The overhead lights dim again, this time lingering in their lowered state. You realize the whole back of the bus has begun to fade, not into darkness, but into opacity. Like someone is gently erasing it from the narrative. The seats lose their edges. The poles seem to bend. The passengers further back are no longer sitting but suggested. Outlines, drafts, and then the bus hits something. A small jolt. Not enough to stop it, just enough to acknowledge something passed through. Or someone. You see a smear on the windshield now, faint and shifting, as if a memory was caught in the glass. It's gone before you can read it. You breathe, and then realize that was your 3rd breath in a row without thinking. The guest is doing something. Not visibly, not physically, but you can feel it in your memory, rewriting paths, nudging thoughts. You suddenly forget which hand you use to write. You forget whether your bedroom door opens inward or out. You forget your mother's ringtone. The guest is gently unfastening your anchor. There's a legend in rural Wales, never written but always told about the backbounder, a spirit that rides home with weary travelers. It doesn't kill. It doesn't curse. It simply stays. Occupies the corner of your house you never quite clean. Sits in the chair you don't remember buying. And eventually it starts speaking your name in your voice. Not maliciously, just helpfully. Some folklorists think this was a metaphor for grief. Some think it was the beginning of mimicry as myth. Others, of course, claim it was based on fact. You feel the guest's attention shift now. Not away from you, into you. It's not interested in what you are, but what you've forgotten to be. Your uncertainties. Your near misses. The seat you didn't take that day, the goodbye you never said, the version of you that still rides a different route, wondering where it went wrong. Maybe the guest is that version. Maybe you're its unfinished seat. There's a faint sound now. Bells, not ringing, just resting. Like chimes made of old coins swaying in a breathless wind. It comes from nowhere. Or maybe the roof. Or maybe the place where roofs used to be. You stand. That's your 3rd mistake. The guest stands too, but it doesn't rise. It accumulates. Rises like dust in reverse, like breath unspoken, like fog realizing it has a body after all. It doesn't fill space. It becomes the space you leave behind. You take one slow step forward toward the middle of the bus. The poles feel warmer now, and the lights above buzz slightly, not electric but insectoid, like something watching with wings. The driver still hasn't moved. Still no reflection. Still no stop announced. You reach the emergency cord. You pull. Nothing. Or so you think, because the bus sighs again more deeply this time, like it's exhaling a memory. And suddenly you know the stop is coming. Not your stop, but the guest's. And the guest is waiting for you to offer. Just a gesture, a nod, a seat. One small kindness and the haunting becomes yours. That's how they pass on now. Not with screams, with manners. The bus is slowing. Not in speed exactly, but in time. The windows no longer show the outside. They remember it. Faded trees where glass should be echoes of roads where mist now clings. Every object becomes a version of itself you almost forgot. The floor tiles show faint boot prints in a size you've never worn. The handles curve like horns. The emergency exit is labeled in a language that feels eerily close to your childhood handwriting, only reversed like a lesson you taught yourself in a dream. The guest does not look at you. That would be too forward. It simply exists beside you now, undeniable as gravity, polite as dusk. You can feel it seated again, not in posture but placement. A calm certainty. A passenger who has decided the ride is over and that someone should take its place. Joke number 3. Guess it's my stop now, even if it isn't. You hear the bell ding. Once. Not from above but from the ground. As if the earth beneath the bus is giving permission. The vehicle rolls to a stop. The doors hiss open. Again, no curb. Just a platform of sorts. A threshold made of fossil sand and forgotten bricks. You see a set of stairs spiraling down into blackness lit by oil lamps that flicker without wind. A sign hangs loosely from a post that looks older than the road itself. Transfer station for guests only. No one moves. Not even the driver. You turn your head. The guest is looking forward. Still not at you, but it knows you're deciding. This isn't a choice about safety or logic. It's about acknowledgement. You've been offered something, a trade perhaps. Not your life, not your soul, just your presence, your seat. You could stand up now, walk away, sit further up, pretend the ride continues, ignore the final stop. But you don't, because deep down some ancient part of you recognizes this ritual. A truth buried in the layers of your thinking that when something rides with you long enough, it becomes you. Or perhaps you become its transport. That's the oldest story of all. The dead don't walk, they ride. And this guest has ridden quietly, respectfully for so long. It deserves the front seat now. You stand slowly, nod. You do not look back. You step off, and as you do, the air changes. Lighter, drier, more yours. The weight you didn't realize you were carrying lifts just slightly. Your shoulders adjust like they're returning to a shape they once held in childhood. Behind you, the bus doors close. No engine revs, no departure. It just fades, not vanishes, dissolves. Like the outline of something drawn in breath on a cold window. Slowly giving itself back to the night. You are alone now on the platform. The stairs below hum softly in no language you know. You do not descend. You don't have to. This place is not for you. Not anymore. The offering has been accepted. The guest has taken your seat, and the seat has taken its shape. In time, you will forget the sound of the brakes, the flicker of the lights, the exact curve of the road where the forest swallowed the world. You'll remember only the warmth of the pole beneath your hand, the near smile on the fogged window, the silence that watched you kindly from the aisle. And now, whenever you ride alone on trains, on elevators, in your car before dawn, you'll check the reflection of the back seat. You'll see it. Or think you do. Just a hint, just a shadow. Not a threat, not a ghost. Just a guest. Still polite. Still waiting. Still riding home.